Hi, Andrea here from SEN Parent Support Group again, welcome. Today we're going to look at OT and SaLT therapy, what they are and how can they help your child at school or at home. I want to preface this with the fact that I'm not medically trained and I'm bringing you this information based solely on our experiences, myself and my child, on this journey. Now, starting with OT, occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is a treatment that supports a child and their family when they experience difficulties in some of the areas I'm about to outline. Development delays, fine and gross motor skills, visual processing, eating and feeding, oral motor, oral sensory, sensory processing, social interaction, learning skills, play skills. As I've just listed, the OT will measure these in terms of milestones and develop strategies to work with the child. All of those listed can present in many ways or behaviourally, and it's the job of the OT to ascertain the areas of difference to the child's peers at that age. That's what they're trained to do. How will you know if your child needs OT input from a child of school age? For example, well, if your child is challenged by one of the following, you may want to consult an OT. Unable to concentrate and focus at school. Easily distracted, difficulty following instructions, difficulty completing work, tires easily, poor impulse control, hyperactivity or low energy. The list is not exhaustive, and as I said, I'm not medically trained, so you need to do your own research pertaining to your child. However, in our situation, I didn't realise my son had no tension in his thumb, hold a pencil correctly, until the OT assessed, which I'd requested via the school relating to something else. What that meant for him was that he tired quickly whilst writing, so he'd give up, never get past the title. The OT report assisted us in obtaining scribe assistance in class and the use of a PC. They also gave us a sensory diet to do at home, which included heavy work, pushing and pulling, which assisted in his regulation from his sensory needs. And it helped massively. I just know that without that report, school would not have taken this seriously and his use of these adjustments would have been inconsistent. OT interventions can be accessed via SENCO or your local authority at EHCP needs assessment stage or annual review. Of course, you can get a referral from your doctor and or pay privately. OT referrals can be part of assessment plan, do, review process of SENCO's, SEN policy. They can be part of the EHCP needs assessment and be requested also at, as I've said, annual review. Now, moving on, SaLT. What is it? It stands for Speech and Language Therapy. Preface again, I am not medically trained and I'm bringing this to you based on the information we've gained during our experiences. Typically, you may think that SaLT is for speech impediments, as I did. It's not. Yes, that's part of what SaLT therapists do and will address, but it's much more. In my words, it's about every aspect of communication, verbal, non-verbal, auditory and visual. A SaLT therapist can assess children from all areas, for example, mild, moderate or severe learning difficulties, physical disabilities, language delays, developmental language disorder, and specific difficulties in producing sounds, hearing, impairment. Can also help people with cleft lip or palate, stammers, social interaction difficulties, and voice disorders. Some of these presentations can be obvious and others identified through behaviour presentation. In our case, it was refusal to do work and social difficulties after diagnosis of ASD. What SaLT identified for us was ADHD traits, which actually in our case added weight to CAMS and ultimately gave us a diagnosis of ADHD. It was identified that my son needed a teacher with experience of higher level speech and language training, and he needed input which was subsequently written within his EHCP, and that made a massive difference. My son communicated eloquently and at a level much higher than his peers, so obviously this was a barrier for him, and even now he prefers to communicate with older peers, and his social anxiety is linked to this, if that makes sense. So it's key working progress for us. For us, our SaLT assessment, which I commissioned privately for tribunal purposes, was pivotal in getting the right support for my child. Schools have SaLT teams, but they are not trained, and in my experience, instead have this as a level of on-call for intervention during class time for those removed. That does not identify SaLT need. If they're rejected from class, in my experience, I'd say it does. How do you get SaLT referral? Well, like OT, this can be part of their SENCO's assess, plan, do review process. It can be part of the EHCP process, needs assessment, or a request under annual review. Like OT, you can refer via the NHS too. I hope this has been informative to our group members, and I will link info in the comments for the group below if you're viewing this on TikTok. But thank you for listening, and I do hope this helps on your journey. Till next time.